Right, now there's an important slide here. I've never ever thought that this slide was important, but that one there, the forward-looking statements, given that I'm the non-executive chair and biggest shareholder, there will almost certainly be forward-looking statements here, so all of a sudden that takes on new meaning to me. I've got to contradict Eric a little bit. I really enjoyed your presentation always, Eric, but I just received, as I was sitting there, a text message from Canaccord's quant strategist. He said, next week the Fed's narrative will change. They will announce that they will need to tolerate above target inflation in order to protect growth. They will justify this new stance using the Russian-Ukraine war excuse, something they could not have predicted. This should resume the advance in gold to new all-time highs. So I thought, you know, that's very, very timely.
I can live with that if that's what happens.
I think, likewise, I think a lot of us in the room will feel the same. And of course, you know, the thing I love, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some serious all-time highs in all precious metals, you know, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 gold, $50 to $100 silver, given everything that's going in the world, on in the world. Despite a lot of selling in a lot of sectors, we're seeing precious metals prices rise. And of course, the great thing about precious metals, and I will talk about Visa at some point, but I love to talk about the macro a bit more at times. The great thing about precious metals for me is that they, you know, tick 4 key boxes that nothing else does. Crypto doesn't do this, other equities don't do this, and that is that they're a commodity, a currency, a store of value, and a hedge. And all of a sudden, that hedge is looking very important in a time of war, and who knows where this could go, hopefully not World War III. But for the first time in my life, I've been a gold bug since the day I was born, but for the first time in my life, I've started buying actual physical metal because I am pretty concerned with what's going on in the world at the moment. And I think you'll see a lot more of that sort of demand driver drive things forward. So I love gold, and I think the outlook's very good, but the thing I prefer more is actually silver because it ticks those 4 key boxes, but it's more of a commodity than gold. It's got more uses, and of course all of this technology, solar panels, electronics, solder, need more and more silver, and we're seeing silver move finally into a position of market deficit, supply deficit. So we wouldn't be surprised to see some pretty dramatic things happen over the next 12 to 24 months in silver. I think we'll see as that chart, you know, we know back in 2012-13, silver took off to $50 an ounce. I think we'll soar through that over the next couple of years. We may even see $100 silver, which makes what I'm about to talk about next some of the most exciting things in the market today. Vizsla Silver, we started the company 2.5 years ago. We acquired the Panuco project down there in Mexico. We very quickly started making discoveries. We've only been drilling there 18 months. We've now made 3 major discoveries. We put out a resource announcement last week on the first of 2 of those discoveries. A phenomenal result for only 18 months of drilling with 3 rigs. That we put out a resource, the total resource of 106 million ounces. So the strike rate, the conversion of target to resource from this project is like nothing else I've ever seen. And I've had the great fortune of being involved in some pretty good exploration successes. The Imam North coking coal project in Russia, the Arrow, NextGen's Arrow project where I was a founder, the Hurricane deposit, Skeena's Eskay Creek, of course, we've proved up a huge amount of resources there. This is the most important discovery I've ever been involved in. And the reason I say that is, well, firstly, it's not uranium, it's a metal that people seem to actually want to buy and own. So that helps. But the other thing about it is that we control an entire district. So never before in my career have I ever had the opportunity to control and drill out an entire district. Certainly done it on individual deposits before, and that can be great creators of wealth. But when you've got an entire district, you know, that changes the game. And we're going to, you know, as I say, we've made 3 serious discoveries there. I think over the next little while, we've got more to come. So I'll quickly flick through these slides. I've only got 76 of them. 5 minutes left. We should be all right. We've got a tight share structure, of course. We've really only got 150 million shares out at the moment. We've had great support from the market. We raised 75 million last year. So we've got plenty of cash. We've still got 38 million in the bank. Very importantly, all of the directors and all of our team are writing checks and buying stock in the market as we speak. And I think that's the biggest hint for you here as retail investors. If you see a management team and a board buying stock, pin your ears back. I think the last time I was here, Eric, was probably 2.5 years ago, pre-COVID. I was presenting one of my companies, ISO Energy. I was buying the stock in the market between 30 and 50 cents during that last presentation. I'm buying stock in Vizsla today. I sold some ISO Energy today at $5.60, so you know, well over a 10 bagger. So when you see a management team buying, I think that's a pretty good indicator of what they're thinking and where things are heading. And importantly, you'll see that pie chart up there. We're slowly making that transition to seeing institutional investors get more involved and come into the register. So we're moving away from, purely retail and management and board-owned company to bringing in more institutional investors. The reason I'm giving this presentation today and not someone sensible like Mike Connaught is that the fellas are over in New York presenting to a bunch of institutional investors today, and the feedback's been phenomenal, and you see that reflected in our share price over the past couple of days. So, people are starting to take notice. The big guys are starting to come in. I think the second biggest shareholder after me is Franklin Templeton, so Steve Land's there. We're seeing that transition to really serious and smart investors, so we're pretty excited about that. This is so very important. You don't really see this too much at these sorts of presentations, but ESG principles are so important to us, and living by them is so very crucial. And the reason I say that is because you need support of your communities, you need support of the investment community as well, and by living by these key principles, it's allowed us to do something that I haven't seen done quite this quickly before, and that is to get support from the Tahitos in our area, the communities and farmers in our area, and we've signed 3 major Tahito agreements to date, so we're starting to tick those boxes. To my mind, this is probably the most important slide in the entire deck, and the reason I say that is because, as going back to that original idea of controlling an entire district, you can see there the total property package is about 14 kilometres long by 10 kilometres wide and covers nearly all of this fantastic newly discovered Panuco silver district. Now, I say newly discovered, that's not entirely right. They've been mining silver here for 450 years. So someone discovered it well before us, but it took our team, Charles Funk, who's up the back there, to come along and recognise the potential of this entire district. And the resource we put out early last week is really just in that Napoleon Tahitos zone, so southwest corner. We've still got about 90% of the property to explore. There's already 100 million ounces there. I think it'll be a 1 billion ounce silver district over time, one of the great silver discoveries. What's 1 billion ounces of silver worth, or what's an entire district worth? Well, I've never seen one sell for less than $2 billion. Our market cap today is about 350. That gives you an indication as to where I think we're going and why I'm buying stock today. The long section there on Napoleon and our resource, the only thing I want to highlight here is the scale of it, but very importantly, that little box there in the high grade section of it. There's about 13 million ounces at nearly 10 grams per tonne gold equivalent. So that's right at surface there. It's going to pay back capital on any production we do very, very quickly. And I notice we've got the Stibbard fellas, Cody and Jeff over there. They're going to help us build this mine eventually. So we're looking and thinking about all of those things, but some of that high-grade ore is going to be spectacular for paying back capital. The only thing I really want to point out on this confusing and convoluted slide is that if you look at those yellow dots, you'll notice Vizsla Panuco at 250 gram per tonne cut-off grade, and it sits well above all but one of those other yellow dots. And of course, that's the silver Crest there, SIL Las Chispas, is the highest grade silver deposit that's been proved up in recent times out there. And you'll note that our grade Panuco is quite similar. So very, very high grade, significantly better than most of those other companies out there. So that's very important to note as well. And finally, on Napoleon, just pointing out the fact that the deposit's wide open at both ends, but particularly on the southern end where we've been getting some spectacular drill hits. I'll just demonstrate here the growth potential from the project. We started drilling there in 2020, October 2020, and you can see that it's just grown dramatically, very, very quickly. A couple of final slides here. Tahitos. Another vein, incredible grades. We put out some results today, the best of those holes today from our Kapala discovery at the northern end of this vein. A new discovery was about 8 metres at 30 grams per tonne gold equivalent. So we continue to generate really, really good results from the project. Again, I mentioned that southwest corner over this side is where we've been focused in drilling. We have all of this other mineralisation, oozing silver and gold mineralisation over the entire district, and hardly any of that has ever had a drill hole in it. So I think we're going to get some pretty spectacular results over the not too distant future, and plenty of potential for further discoveries over the coming weeks and months as we get to testing some of those other targets. And importantly, we've got 10 rigs turning at the moment. We'll shortly have 12 rigs, and then we're going to 13 rigs. A lot of those rigs will be drilling out and expanding on that maiden resource, but plenty of new rigs out there testing further targets as well. So, we're all confident, and we've got our fingers crossed for making further discoveries at what is, certainly the best project that I've ever been involved in. And then, of course, lastly, you compare our company to some of our competitors out there. We're still the minnow, 350 million market cap. I think, as I've mentioned before here, that silver districts like this are typically worth well north of a couple of $1 billion. So when by no means fully valued, we've got a lot of potential to come. But the key point for me, as if you're an investor and you're watching what's going on here, the fact that the management and board are buying stock today is a pretty fair indication of where we think things are going. So I'd love to see you all on the register one day soon as well. Thank you very much.